Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Speed Traveling, where faculty, students, and staff share their world journeys. This presentation is one of a number of activities and events happening during this nationally recognized International Education Week, otherwise known as IEW. IEW is an opportunity to celebrate the benefits of international education and exchange worldwide. This joint initiative of the US Department of State and the US Department of Education is an effort to promote programs that prepare Americans for a global environment and attract future leaders from abroad to study, learn, and participate on an exchange to the US. Today, we welcome presenters from across the UNH colleges. Thank you for being here and being open to sharing your global journeys with us. Sit back and enjoy traveling with UNH in the world. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ray Cook. I'm a professor in civil engineering, and when I was an undergraduate, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I was undeclared and ended up in Spanish literature and civil engineering. I went to Spain on two occasions, the first occasion was a junior year abroad, and I was in Barcelona, and I'm going to talk a little bit about visiting the Balearic Islands. And then later I went back as an engineering intern, and I visited Oviedo and rode my bicycle in northern Spain. This is where I grew up in northern Illinois, and I grew up in the hilly part of northern Illinois, and that's it. I got to Barcelona. We had a week or so before classes. I bought a bicycle, and saw that there was a ferry to Palma. I didn't know that Mallorca existed. I didn't know the Balearic Islands existed. So I got on the boat and I showed up and I started writing, and this is what I found. In fact, on the very first hour, I started going uphill, and I didn't stop after an hour, and then it was 2 hours and 3 hours. And when I finally did start coming downhill, I realized that you could melt your brakes because you're braking so much on the downhill. And I ended up in this tiny little town. It turns out this is where Chopin spent a lot of his time composing. And I spent a day there recovering. The bike seat was not friendly. And then I went on to, the next day, to Alcudia del Mar. And it was just beautiful. And I met a Spanish family in a hotel. And then from there, I got another ferry across to the island of Menorca. Menorca is this tiny little island, and it's covered with little mini Stonehenges. I had no idea. And these stone monuments are scattered all across the island, and there's a different language there, a different dialect, and I've got tons of stories about that. And then I finally traveled back to Spain on what was the scariest boat ride of my life. Then I went back to Spain after a year, the following summer, on an engineering internship. There's an exchange program, put the letters up there. I worked as an engineering intern. And I had to buy another bicycle. The first bike was lost in a fire. And I happened across a bike store, and the bike store was run by this guy, Jose Manuel Fuentes. And he was a big guy in the Tour de France, and he was famous for riding in the mountains. On some of the stages in the Tour de France, he'd take his bike seat off because he knew he wasn't going to sit down for the whole stage. And he was running a bike. He ran into health problems. He was running a bike store. I had no idea who the guy was, and I bought a bike from him. And he gave me little, he gave me little things to do. He said, try to do this, meet up with these guys, do that. And he told me to go to the Picos de Europa, and once I started climbing the mountains, he challenged me to never put my foot down. It turns out that this is where the Spanish Reconquista began, the last little holdout of Christians after the Moors swept through the peninsula of Spain. This is the last little holdout, so there's a little sanctuary there, and this is where they started fighting back in Covadonga. And this was the beginning of the Picos de Europa. And this was an incredible mountain stage, and I determined to do it. I wasn't going to put my foot down, and I went forever, and it was so hard. And I finally came through the tree lines and up to the shoulder of a mountain, and I said, there it is, there's the top. And I got there, I've only got 3 minutes. I got there, and I thought, this is it, I finally did it, I'm so proud. And I got to the top and I looked down and the road went way off into the distance. And it circled a valley and it went up over the mountains. I said, oh my God, but there it is. And so I went down around the valley and up to that. And I saw the road go down into a valley and then up over the mountains again. And this just went on for 3 or 4 days. Nuns were coming down. They were cheering me. They were leaning out of the windows cheering because I was going up. And it was a fantastic experience. I rode bikes all over Spain. I rode off a cliff. I met people. I almost ran into a car. I was riding through fog. I have so many stories. But the independence and meeting all these crazy people and little people that just had a room for the night, it was amazing. So that's my little speed traveling bit.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Tamar and this is Maarten. We're both exchange students from the Netherlands and we go to the University of Utrecht. We both live in Utrecht and we're just going to tell you something about Holland.
Yeah, Holland or the Netherlands, what actually is it? My roommate after a couple of weeks said, you know what, to half the people you meet you say you're from Holland, the other half you say you're from the Netherlands. What are you from actually? What is it? It's pretty much the same. It's just that Holland are the 2 most important provinces back in the time that Holland itself was actually still important. Right now it doesn't really matter, you can pretty much use them either way. Does anyone, well, if you could say anything about Holland or the Netherlands, anyone with a stereotype?
Wooden shoes.
Wooden shoes, exactly, very good. Yeah, gotcha. Tulips, exactly. Windows. With or without women in them, exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much, that's the kind of stereotype that you have. Wooden shoes, windows, cheese, mills. But actually, of course, Holland is a lot more. And Tamar will tell you something about what you should visit if you decide to go there.
As you can see here, this is like one of the many places that are really beautiful. There's a lot of water and a lot of old buildings and museums and just a lot of things to do. The bottom picture is one of my favorite spots in Utrecht, and that's actually for 2 reasons. As you can see, there are a lot of places down by the water where you can sit and have a drink or go out to dinner, and as soon as the weather is nice, everyone just goes there and sits down, and it's just a really fun place. But you can see on the top there are the good shops, so that's a good reason too. It's really downtown Utrecht, and yeah, it's a really good place to visit. Something about our customs. So on the left, that's Keukenhof. It's where you can find the tulips. We've both actually never been there, but
Right around the corner, but
yeah, that's the thing. When you're a tourist, you go see all this stuff, and when you actually live there, you don't. So that's something we have to do when we get back home. On the right, you can see a lot of people on boats dressed in orange. So this picture is taken on Queen's Day, and once a year on Queen's Day, we celebrate the birthday of our queen, even though it's not her actual birthday. But the Queen's Day is in April because it was the birthday of the Queen's mom, I think. Yeah. And we decided to keep it in April because the weather is better than in the winter, which is the actual birthday of our queen. What we do, we all go outside. There are a lot of festivals. It's the one day in the year that you can drink outside, and people sell stuff, just party and have a good time. So it's really nice. If you're there in April, it's a really good thing to go and do. On the left, boerenkool, our famous dish. Not really, but in Holland, everyone eats this. It's one of the things that farmers used to eat for lunch because it's really sturdy. It has potatoes and kale and then a sausage.
I am Haley Elzawi. I'm a junior sociology major here, and I've been fortunate enough to have had a lot of travel experience around the world. This summer, though, I chose to study abroad in the Czech Republic. I hadn't had an experience in Europe yet, and so I guess this presentation is going to focus really on like the cultural adaptation that I went through in the Czech Republic. During orientation, both back here at UNH before I left and when I got to Prague, you hear about, respect the culture, you're going to somebody else's home, you need to respect that, be polite to the people, and like, okay, like, we'll be polite, and, like our definition of polite, you're friendly, and you see somebody, you smile, and you know, like we had our own definition of what it was to respect people. So you know, we got there, we're so excited, we're in this new place. Some of the best friends I've made were on my trip with me. So it was really exciting. We went to, you know, all these different like top tourist places. We had you know, days where we designated, okay, today we're going to be tourists, but then tomorrow we're going to be natives. And, you know, some of my best days were when we just, like, hopped on the metro, got off at random stops, and, you know, like, found these random places that turned into, you know, amazing, amazing days. But we did all the stereotypical tourist stuff, too, painting the London Wall, for one. I'll talk about that again in a little bit. But, you know, we got there, and we were just so excited to be there. But what we didn't really realize is that, you know, our definition of what it is to respect the culture wasn't exactly in line with what is respecting the culture. You know, we'd see people, and here you make eye contact with somebody, and you'll give a little smile, if not, like, you know, a little wave and a hi, or Dobry den in Czech. But there, you know, people's faces were turned stone cold, and we're like, what are we doing wrong? Like, we should be getting a better response than this. We're trying to be polite and be friendly. We're trying to respect them by being nice. But what we really didn't understand is the public versus the private sphere as a result of like communism and like the Holocaust before that even goes in to connect to that. So, you know, people were like, why are these Czech people so mean? They're like not nice people. When really like we just were not, you know, we weren't on top of our game. And really until you get there and you understand that and you witness that, there's no way of really knowing that. So, you know, like the public and the private sphere, Czech people view, if you're willing to waste, in a sense, a smile on a stranger, what does it mean when you smile to somebody that you really do care about? It becomes insignificant, and it's not nearly... it's not viewed good at all. So us smiling to people, they're like, oh, why are you wasting this on us? You're not sincere. Are you up to no good? But we didn't know that. But so when I was in the Czech Republic, I took a historical perspectives class on 20th century Eastern Europe, focusing in on the Czech Republic. I visited multiple sites of the Holocaust and different communist events. And you hear about these things, we know about these things. I feel like here in the U.S., our country is so young that, you know, especially for my generation when we weren't even around at that point, it feels like it is so much in the past, whereas for people in the Czech Republic and Europe in general, it is still something very much alive and a part of the culture. So, you know, even being aware of these things, until you visit there and you experience that culture, you have no idea. So, you know, I visited a village that was thriving, and it's an open field now that has been like wiped apart, and you know, seeing that puts things into perspective. So the point of this really is that our definition of respect and being polite to the people and accommodating to different cultures isn't necessarily what we define as being respectful. Definitions of the situation between our culture and other cultures may differ. So for people looking to go to study abroad, or you know, for fellow travelers who are, you know, are looking for another trip, I guess it's something to bear in mind, and something that I took back from the Czech Republic.
Hi everybody, my name is Katia Karaivanova. I am a graduate student in the Department of Psychology, and I'm also an international student from Bulgaria. So I decided that today I will show you a couple of pictures and talk a little bit more about why you should go visit Bulgaria. For those of you who are a little confused with geography, Bulgaria is right in the middle between Romania on the north side and then Greece and Turkey on the south side. So we're going to start with this picture. This is taken in a town called Belogradchik. It is in the northwestern part of the country, which is known more for being very flat and being close to the Danube River. These rocks are all, they have been there for thousands and thousands of years. In the early, I think, 13th century, the fortress was built right before Bulgaria became under Turkish rule. And it was initially built as a fortress to just be for like a lookout tower, but then during the following years it became more of a weapon storage, and the town itself ultimately became one of the places that started the mutiny that ended the Turkish rule over Bulgaria. at the end of the 19th century. The next picture is from the Rila Mountains. It is a mountain range in the southwestern part of Bulgaria. It is the 6th largest mountain in Europe, the 6th highest mountain in Europe, and it also has the highest peak on the Balkan Peninsula, which is about 9,600 feet, or for those of you like me who work in meters, almost 3,000 meters. The mountain takes up a large portion of the country, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It is well known for all of the little lakes. Those are glacial lakes. There is a place called the Seven Rila Lakes that they're very, very close together, and each lake is named for what it kind of looks like. So there's the eye, there's the one that's called the kidney, that just, they go by a shape of what they're called. The Rila Mountain is also the home of the Rila Monastery, which is the biggest monastery in Bulgaria. And then the last picture is taken in Nesebur. It is a small town that actually originated almost 4,000 years ago and was built by the Thracians, which is one of the groups that ultimately formed what is now Bulgaria. The town is on the eastern border of Bulgaria. It is right on the Black Sea. It used to be a very famous trade port town, and during the Turkish rule, it was known for the fact that all of the very rich people lived there because they managed to buy off the Turkish not to destroy their town, which is why when you go there now, there's a lot of old buildings and a lot of beautiful architecture that you can see there. The reason why I chose those 3 towns is that there's a general stereotype that I've heard about Bulgarians, that they're very rude and very unwelcoming. And if you go to the major cities, if you go to Sofia, that's actually kind of true. But once you move away and you go to these smaller villages and smaller towns and just go and explore, there are a lot of people that are extremely friendly and welcoming. And I've been in situations where we go places and we find these restaurants where it's just somebody's kitchen and they're like, okay, I'll cook for the 30 people that are there. So, thank you.
My name is Alexia Sagaris, and I studied abroad last spring from January to June in Cape Town, South Africa. And I just want to start off by saying that it was really hard to choose 3 slides to capture my experience, but I tried my best. And the first thing that I said when I wanted to study abroad is that I want to go somewhere different. And Cape Town, as I'm sure if any of you heard, is considered to be one of the most beautiful cities. And while I was there, I was really fortunate to be able to travel not only in South Africa, but also outside of South Africa. And one of the most notable things that I did was for my spring break trip, I got to fly to Johannesburg, and then I camped out in Botswana and ended my journey in Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe. And these pictures are one of them is from Botswana, and one of them is from Victoria Falls itself. And these 2 pictures are the best ones I thought that I took. And it made me really stop in my tracks and take in all the beauty that Southern Africa has to offer. And it is argued that Table Mountain and Victoria Falls are 2 of the 7 wonders of the world. And I can definitely say that they are after being there. And also this picture on the bottom left is it's called a Sunset Moonrise Hike. And when you get to the top of Lion's Head Mountain in Cape Town, you can see the sun setting and the moon rising at the same time. And it was just an unreal experience, definitely out of body. So definitely the beauty of Southern Africa is something that I'll never forget. And also during my stay there, I volunteered in some local townships of Cape Town, which are pretty much the slums of outside of Cape Town. And something that I didn't know while I was there is that Cape Town is very diverse and that there's a lot of wealth in certain areas, but most of the population lives in pretty brutal conditions. And these are some of the pictures of kids that I made some connections with. And also in South Africa, something that I didn't know is that there's 11 national languages. And so a lot of the children there don't speak English, they speak their native tongue. And although there was a language barrier, they say that laughter is universal, and that's definitely something that I noticed. And also something about the Cape Townian people is that they're very welcoming, and that the mothers of all these children would welcome into their houses, which weren't very much, but for them to understand why we were there and that they really appreciated our help was something that I noticed that will definitely stick with me. And also Cape Town culture, they call Cape Town the mother city, and it's definitely very diverse, and they have a lot of laid-back culture compared to the high-speed chase of America. And what really drew me into Cape Town is that I heard so many different things that you could do, and while I was there, I never ever had a dull moment. Some of these pictures they show what Cape Town's known for. Wine tastings in Stellenbosch is something that I did, and the rugby games that were in the Cape Town Stadium. And I got to study abroad at University of Cape Town, this is a picture of the campus, which actually looked like a painting every single day. And I was also lucky enough to where I lived. I walked to campus every day, and I got to look at Table Mountain every morning when I woke up. And that's definitely something that I miss. And also, I'm sure we all know about apartheid, and that is something that I learned a lot about while I was there, because I didn't know much about it before I went. And I got to go to Robben Island, where Nelson Mandela stayed for 27 years. And just being there and immersing myself in the culture made me realize that the country has been through a lot of struggle, and they've come a long way. So for me, being an outsider coming in was something that definitely struck me as being a lot different than America, and I'm glad that I got to experience it. And overall, my stay in Cape Town has made me want to go back since the minute that I left. So I hope that you all can go there someday.
Hi everyone, and thank you for being here. A little bit of the geography. Yemen is located in the southern of Arabian Peninsula, the most southern part. The language is Arabic. The population is 25 million people. The size of Yemen is not big. It's a little bit bigger than California and similar to the size of Thailand. Yemen has a very unique geography. It's very unique because this part is mountainous, and then it has a very large coastal line, and then this area is the desert or the empty quarter. And so this gives it a very unique climate, and it's very diverse. If you just drive for like an hour or two, you find yourself in a totally different place. Just a little bit about the photos. This is again from Socotra. This is from Socotra. This one is from the desert, like the coastal line by the desert. So this is how the towns in the desert look like. This is Shibam. This is one of the oldest also cities. And it has the oldest skyscrapers, if that was the word, I guess. And this is how it looks at night. This is a photo of a village called Wadi Dawan, the Valley of Dawan. And here, where this area comes the most famous honey of Yemen. Yemen is very famous for honey, and we have like hundreds of different kinds of honey that people even use for medications and other things. This is also the desert, the empty quarter. And this is another, it's the village in the first slide. And this is another view from Eb. Now this photo is from an island called Cameron in the Red Sea. And the islands in the Red Sea are very different from the islands in the Arabian Gulf or the Indian Ocean. They have different climate, just the feel of it is very different. And this is from Tahama, which is basically the coastal line on the Red Sea. This is just to give a little bit of a feel of the traditions in Yemen. So this image is from a mosque, and architecture is very important in Yemen. Like, people still build their houses the very traditional way, like from thousands of years ago, and every city and area has its own very different architecture. This is a traditional musical instrument. Inside houses, not all houses, in fact, most of the houses don't have chairs and don't have armchairs because people sit in the ground. And they mostly sit in this area which we call diwan. This is a typical Yemeni living room, and this is little, like elevated kind of mattress. And so you just sit a little bit above the ground. This is a typical Yemeni face, just a woman putting her traditional costume on. Daggers. Daggers are a sign of manatee. And there are several different daggers in Yemen, and depends on which area you come from, the shape of the dagger changes. Silver is a very old craft that dates back to like thousands of years. And this photo and these photos are from the old souk or market of Sana'a. The old city, Sana'a is a very old city, like dates to thousands of years too. Another thing I didn't put a photo for here, even those who haven't heard of Yemen before, in fact they did for two reasons. The first one is that Yemen is also a biblical country, is mentioned in the Old Testament, I believe, as the kingdom of Sheba, of which the Queen of Sheba married the son of King David, Solomon. So this is the first reason. The second reason is some of us, especially those who are addicted to coffee, they heard, they like mocha. I mean, I personally like it so-so. But mocha is a name of a city in Yemen, a port that used to export coffee. And Yemen is the first country to export coffee to the rest of the world until the 16th century, when it couldn't cover the international market demands. So they exported it to Brazil because the mountains of Brazil have similar climate to mountains of Yemen. And then Brazil and Colombia and many countries started to plant coffee, but nobody knows about Yemen or Yemeni coffee. So I thought that was something worth mentioning. So next time you see mocha, please think Yemen.
Yes, so my name is Tolan Renner. I also went to China this past summer, actually. And the reason I went, I live in New Hampshire. This is my home university here in New Hampshire. I didn't expect I'd ever go to China. But then 2 summers ago, I got a scholarship to go to Taiwan. And that was my first experience with Mandarin. I really enjoyed the culture, and I wanted to go back. And I wanted to experience a little more of Asia. So actually, this is where this bag is from, Taiwan. This is one of the gifts I got from that program. I was studying at a university in southern Taiwan. So I went to China this past summer, and I stayed in southwest China in Sichuan province, where the internationally famous Sichuan cuisine is from. And I actually stayed in a homestay family. So I was living with a Chinese family, and we had an apartment. It was in a sort of a gated community within Chengdu, the capital of Sichuan City. And throughout the program, there was a series of field trips. The first, one of the biggest field trips we went on was a field trip to Ermei National Park. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and go back to there. And at that site, there is this sculpture, the Leshan Giant Buddha, which is one of the largest stone Buddhas in the world. And it's part of this park. Ermei Shan is that's a giant mountain, one of the sacred Buddhist mountains in China. And the whole preserve is the site where Buddhism first entered China and had a large influence. So on the top of Ermei Mountain, there's the first Buddhist temple, and this is the giant sculpture that they carved out in honor of Buddha. And in my travels around Asia, I saw a lot of Buddhism. So I decided to include this slide as sort of the history of China and some of the ideologies that influenced China throughout the millennium. It's a very old culture. So the next slide, towards the end of the program, we went to Beijing, the capital. This is Tiananmen Square in Beijing. This is sort of the center of modern Chinese politics. They have all the Chinese politicians and the different houses next to Tiananmen Square. In the back of Tiananmen Square, there's a Forbidden City, which you can see over on the right, and also famous around the world for various political scenes. So this site actually, when I came to Beijing, the Tiananmen Square, it's really big. It's the largest square, largest city square in the world. And what was most interesting to me is every day there was lines to go see Mao Zedong's body. His body is still preserved in Tiananmen Square, and I actually got to see his body. So learning in like school about like the evils of communism, it was interesting to come here and see that he's still revered as this leader in China. When I left mainland China, I went to Macau. Keep going backwards, but Macau is actually a former Portuguese colony, and it was ceded to mainland China in 1999. Hong Kong, that was the larger former British colony, and these two now special administration regions are sort of some of the wealthiest places in mainland China, and well, technically not considered mainland China because they operate under the one country, two systems policy was set forth by Deng Xiaoping, and so they basically have their own separate government and separate currencies. And what's really interesting about Macau is, in this picture, there's the ruins of St. Paul Cathedral, which was the largest Catholic cathedral in Asia at the time it was built. And this is Macau is sort of one of those areas in China where it's really East meets West culture, and there's a lot of tourism there. Today, it's the largest gambling site in the world, and there's a lot of casinos as well, and there's a lot of business going on here. And this is where a lot of Chinese tourism, both from mainland China and from around the world, come to see, experience modern China.
Yeah, my name is Tom. If any of you have to get to classes, I won't mind, but Colette's going to time me. She's going to say 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, so let's go. When I was trying to think, I had the good fortune of reporting in 45 different countries on somebody else's dime. And the thing that when I was looking and thinking about where I wanted to talk about today, I was most struck by encounters I had and by human connections. So I just want to introduce you to 3 people. These photos, by the way, have the benefit were taken by my friend who's a Pulitzer Prize winning photographer. So these are not my photos. His name is Esther Suarez. This is Zenaida Cantake. She is a reindeer herder in the town of Kanchalan, which is in Chukotka in the Russian far north. And I was there reporting a story, but one of the things, as I'm sure everybody feels when you travel in the world and you go to a different country, is in addition to the landscapes and the monuments and the history, it's the people you meet, right? And there is a stillborn reindeer calf right next to her that she was keeping warm throughout the day because she was actually going to use it to make a hat. Am I at a minute yet, Colette? I feel like I'm at a minute. 57 seconds. So anyway, she was building her own tent, and she told us stories, and I'll give the 10-second version of a long story. Her husband fell through the ice in the 1980s, and she spent 3 months alone looking for him on the tundra and never found him. But she was a wonderful woman, and she was surrounded by her kids and grandkids. Zenaida Cantake. This guy, Alejandro Ortuñez, in the yellow baseball cap, is one of... we were on a bus going through the jungle of southern Venezuela, and we arrived in this little town at night, and there was just a lot going on. And we couldn't fit, I was with my friend Estras, who's a photographer, and he's a native of Panama, so I got 25 seconds. So he started talking to people, and he said, what's going on? I said, well, there's a gold rush. And we said, a gold rush. And in fact, this is a mine. It's one of the largest remaining gold deposits in the world, and it's owned by a Canadian corporation. But the Canadian corporation wasn't mining, and so the government allowed miners to come in, and these were families that were perched all around the edge, and they would work 24 hours a day in these pits, using mercury, by the way, which is not so safe, but it is effective. Time to go. And last but not least, sorry this is so quick, but it is speed traveling, from the tundra and the jungle to the desert of Sudan. This is in a town called, I think I said Kanchalan in Russia, and it's Karabas in Sudan. And it was a little village, and we arrived in the morning to meet the sheikh, who was basically welcoming the people from his village, and he was hearing basically disputes and giving advice about land ownership and marriage and all those things, but all in the room were men, and women were not allowed in. And my friend Estras turned and took this photo, and this woman I've never met, but it sort of summarizes to me, I don't know, an encounter out at the far edge of the earth with somebody she was looking into the room, and obviously I suppose perhaps someone from her family was inside meeting with the sheikh. But there we are, 3 minutes. So that was speed traveling. I'm exhausted, I hope you guys are.
So I think that in conclusion, one of the most valuable things we can take away from this speed traveling presentation and the festivities of International Education Week is that there is a mosaic of international experience and knowledge right here on our doorstep, along with extensive worldview. Whether you are listening in class to that faculty member who's traveled extensively or can speak another language, whether you are talking to a friend who has studied abroad and learned how it impacted their life, or whether you reach out to international students and scholars and ask them about their culture and try and understand what is different about it. Embrace the worldview at UNH and always be globally curious. Thank you for being here.